There is also an important controversy over the president's statements that the EFCC acted pursuant to the court order, with opposition voices asking that the purported order be made public. Here is my strong version or response or rebuttal to Tinubu's interference. I will title it as Tinubu, EFCC, and Osun, when the presidents can order the anti-corruption agency to unfreeze state accounts, and the Nigerians have every right to ask questions. Let us put the facts on the table straight away. The EFCC froze the bank account of Osun State government over allegations concerning suspicious or fraudulent transactions. All right? Then came the extraordinary development. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu personally intervened and directed the EFCC to vacate the order freezing Osun State government's accounts. Now, report further state that President Tinubu spoke with Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke and informed him of his directives to the EFCC. The president reportedly said that the timing of the action was inappropriate and also capable of undermining confidence in the integrity of the forthcoming Osun State governorship election. Now let's look at this. Nigerians must ask, if the EFCC had legitimate grounds to freeze their accounts and was investigating alleged financial crimes, why did the president have to intervene personally to stop it? And if the president had legitimate constitutional authority to intervene, where does that leave the independence of an anti-corruption agency? That is not merely about Governor Adeleke. This is not merely about Osun State. This is about whether Nigeria is becoming a country where law enforcement institutions can be used against political opponents and then switch off by presidential intervention when the political consequences become uncomfortable. The most important question, what changed? What changed? When the EFCC froze the account, Nigerians were given the impression that something serious was being investigated. The EFCC reportedly said it had been investigating the Osun government since March, and that some officials have been questioned by its investigators, according to the cable. Fine. Then investigate. If there was evidence of corruption, prosecute. If there was evidence, close. If there was no evidence, close the investigation lawfully. But Nigerians deserve to understand what changed between freezing of the accounts and the president's directive to unfreeze them. This is my next question. Did the evidence disappear? Did the EFCC discover that no crime have occurred? Was the freezing order legally defective? Did the EFCC make an error? Was the investigation politically motivated? Or did the president simply decide that the investigation should stop because of its potential political implications? This question deserves clear answers. Nigerians deserve to know. And here is the bigger democratic problem. Osun State is controlled by the opposition PDP, Accord Party. The state is also preparing for a governorship election. Therefore, when the account of an opposition-controlled state are frozen by a federal anti-corruption agency shortly before an election, what does it tell? Nigerians would naturally examine the political implications. That does not mean the EFCC should be prevented from investigating opposition politicians. Absolutely not. If Governor Adeleke or any official in Osun has committed a financial crime, investigate and prosecute them. But the exact same principle must apply to officials of the ruling APC. That is what equally That is what equality before the law means. The EFCC must not become a weapon for fighting political opponents. And equally, it must not become an institution that protects people because they belong to the same ruling party. My next question, what about the federal government? This is where the hypocrisy Nigerians perceive becomes even more disturbing. Where is the same level of urgency when questions are raised about enormous federal contracts? Where is the same determination when Nigerians demand explanations for billions and trillions of naira committed to government's project and their procurement, emergency spending, and also contracts? Where are the investigations when Nigerians question contract allegedly awarded without competitive bidding or with questionable procurement process? The answer cannot be investigate or should because it is an opposition state. But look other way when the money is being spent by the federal government. As I said, I'm an independent. I don't belong to any party. I speak the facts. That will not be an anti-corruption war. That will be a selective justice. If 1 billion deserves investigation in Osun, 1 billion deserves investigation in Abuja. If a 10 billion transaction deserves scrutiny in PDP or Accord Party or any opposition party, okay, government, a 10 billion transaction deserves the same scrutiny under an APC government. If a 100 billion contract requires transparency in a state, a 100 billion federal contract should be required exactly the same transparency. Public money does not belong to APC. It does not belong to PDP or any opposition party or Accord Party. It belongs to all Nigerians. Let's come to the question of the president's intervention that, that creates another question, as others argue. But Tinubu is the president. He has, he has the right to direct agencies under the executive branch. Perhaps, but the issue is not simply whether the president can communicate with an agency under executive branch. The issue is what message such investigation or such intervention sends about institutional independency. If an anti-corruption agency can freeze a state government accounts because it believes financial crimes may have occurred, but the president can subsequently direct the agency to vacate that action, Nigerians are entitled to ask, who is actually making the decision? The investigators applying the law or the political authorities controlling the executive branch? And if there was already a valid court order, the question becomes even more serious. How does a presidential directives interact with a judicial order? The president's reportedly intervention has already generated controversy with the African Democratic Congress, questioning the claim the EFCC acted pursuant to court order and also demanding disclosure of the order. All the parties have demanded disclosure of the order. ADC demands Tinubu disclose court order behind Osun State account freeze, as supported by the Cable and the Whistlers. The African Democratic Congress ADC has called on President Bola Tinubu to disclose the court order he claims. That issue should be settled transparently. Publish the order. Let Nigerians see it. Let Nigerians judge it. Let the lawyers examine it. Let the court interpret it. Let the public know exactly what legal authority was used to freeze their account and exactly what legal process was used to vacate the restriction. This is not how a healthy democracy should operate in a functioning democracy. Okay? In a functioning democracy. In a functioning democracy. Institutions should be stronger than individuals. Okay? The president should not be, the one to decide that an investigation is politically what? Inconvenient. And also, therefore, it must be vacated. I hope you guys are getting my rebuttal to this president's intervention. The opposition should not be able to demand immunity from what? Investigation, prosecution, because they are an opposition party, simply because an election is around the corner. All right? Both sides must be subject to what? To the law. If you are prosecuting the APC, also prosecute the opposition party. Both sides must be subject to the law. No favoritism to any party. That is the standard. That is how a state operates, where equality governs. If there is a corruption in Osun, prosecute it. If there's no prosecution, if there's no corruption in Osun, vacate the order. If there is corruption in Lagos, prosecute it. If there is corruption in Kaduna, prosecute it. If there is corruption in Enugu, prosecute it. If there is corruption in Abia, prosecute it. Okay? If there is corruption in any part of Nigerian state, prosecute it. Equality for all. But the question beckons, why should the president intervene? On what authority or on what legal standing? Does it mean he is the one that instigated it? If there's a corruption involving a minister, investigate the minister. If there's a corruption involving a governor, investigate the governor. Even though there is an immunity, wait for the immunity to elapse after he has stepped out of the governorship. If there is corruption in any of your appointees, investigate it. Let him step aside. He cannot be the judge on his own case. If there is corruption involving a presidential appointee, also what? Prosecute it. Equality prevails. There should be no sacred cows. There should be no sacred cows. That is what Nigerians were asking. And that is what Nigerians were also promised, that the law is going to be the law. The danger of political selectivity. The danger of political selectivity. Democracy does not collapse only when soldiers take over. Should I repeat it? Democracy does not collapse only when the soldiers take over the government. Democracy can also be weakened gradually when all institutions of the state has been taken over. When all institutions become politically what? Selective. We have three tiers of government. We have the executive, the legislators, and the judiciary. All are independent and they checkmate each other. They are all equal before each other's. But when the state captures those three arms of government, democracy is weakened. When the police are perceived as political, democracy is weakened. When anti-corruption agencies are perceived as political, democracy is weakened. When elections are perceived to be rigged, okay, or manipulated, democracy is weakened. When public resources are used to reward individuals who are subservient to the government or to the ruling party, democracies are weakened. When public resources are also used to reward political allies, also democracy are weakened. When government institutions are deployed against political opponents, democracy is weakened. When the judiciary is also perceived as what? Incapable of rendering justice, or standing firm in their decisions, or standing firm independently, democracy is weakened. When citizens begin to lose trust or believe that your political party, determines who win, who lose, whether the law protects you or them, democracy is weakened. We must be equal in the eyes of the law, regardless of which political party or which administration is in power. When all these institutions are weakened, that is the road to authoritarianism in the nation. And Nigerians must reject it in totality. Nigerians must reject it regardless of which political party is in government. Nigerians must reject it regardless of which political party is responsible for this decay in democracy. Now let's talk about President Tinubu. President Tinubu should welcome these questions that I'm going to throw to them. Okay? These are the questions that I'm going to throw to the presidency. If the president genuinely believes that the intervention was necessary to protect the integrity of a sure election, the Nigerians deserves a full explanation, not just mere texting. Nigerians deserves a full explanation. And what are those things? What will you tell Nigerians? What will you tell Nigerians? Tell Nigerians why were their account frozen? What were the alleged suspicious activities or transactions? What evidence did the EFCC have? What court order, what court order authorized the EFCC to frozen Osun State accounts? Okay, what court order? Why was the investigation initiated at a particular time? Why was the investigation initiated at that particular time, close to the election? And then, why did the president intervene? Nigerians are curious to know, why did the president intervene? Why was the order subsequently vacated? Has the EFCC investigation ended completely? If the investigation has ended, why? If corruption was suspected, who will now investigate it? The presidency have stopped the investigation, wiped it out of the paper, but if corruption was suspected, who will now investigate it? These are not unreasonable questions that Nigerians are asking. Tell them. Answer those questions. They are the questions citizens of democracy suppose what? To ask and to know and to get the answers. To my people, or show people, I'm going to speak to you guys now. Or show people must be allowed to choose their leaders. Or show people must be allowed to choose who governs them. Or show people must be allowed to choose their government. Or show people must be allowed to stand on their own. The ultimate danger is that federal power could influence the political choices or the political environments in the state. And the most painful part is that the state is controlled by the opposition party, Accord Party. Now, to you guys, Osun voters, listen to this. The hour has come. I'm speaking to the Osun voters now. The hour has come. Osun voters must not allow the presidency, nor the EFCC, nor the APC, nor any other party must decide who governs Osun. The Osun people have the right to decide who governs them. Not the presidency, not the EFCC, not the police, not the federal might should decide who governs Osun people. The federal institutions must therefore be neutral in referees. The INEC must be neutral. I know we know that you are not neutral, but you must be neutral referees in this election. They should not create a financial or administrative condition that could influence voters' mind in deciding who governs them. They should not intimidate opposition parties, regardless which party is in power. All right? But they should also know that the opposition party needs to be protected. They should also not protect, the opposition party politicians from legitimate criminal investigations. And also the opposition party must also be protected from undue influences of interferences from the presidency. The rule must be simple. Investigate everyone. Prosecute everyone against whom there is evidence. And also protect all the citizens of the state. Protect everyone that is fall under the Constitution of Nigeria. They have the constitutional right to vote and to be voted for. And this is why the Osun case matters a lot. This is why the Osun case matters. Today is Osun, tomorrow might be what? Another state. Today is Osun, tomorrow it could be what? Another state. This must not be allowed to stand. This is a trial on what is going to happen in 2027 election, presidential election. Today the victim could be the Accord Party. Tomorrow the victim could be also another political party. Okay? The evidence of rule of law must apply to everybody who is a citizen of Nigeria, regardless of which party he belongs to. The principle must therefore be bigger than any political party. Nigeria does not need an authoritarian leader. Nigeria does not need an EFCC that is loyal to the presidency. Nigeria needs an institution that is strong to stand on their own and to say no when the matters arise. Nigeria needs an institution that can defy an illegal order from the presidency. Nigeria needs an EFCC that is loyal to the law and not to the presidency. Nigeria needs a strong force that is loyal to the law and not to the presidency. Nigeria needs a legislature that is loyal to the law and not to the presidency. And Nigeria needs a judiciary that is loyal to the law and not to the presidency. Nigeria does not need a president who can selectively determine whether anti-corruption investigations should begin or end. That is what is called authoritarian, a dictatorship. Nigeria needs a president who respects the rule of law, who respects the boundaries of authority, who respects the citizens that put him there. Nigeria needs a president who respects the boundaries between the political power, the law enforcement, and also the judiciary, and also the right of the people. The hour has come for all Nigerians to speak with one voice and say enough is enough. And Nigeria certainly does not need a government, okay, where their strength of authority relies on the institutions of the state. Okay? Nigeria certainly does not need a government where the strength of the law depends on whether you belong to the ruling party or not. I'm running up now, just friends. I know it's too long. I'm trying to round up. The more the thought comes to my mind, the more I speak. So if there is a corruption in Osun State, expose it. If there is corruption in Abuja, expose it. If there is corruption in any state of the Nigeria, expose it. Prosecute. Use the judiciary. If there is corruption in the presidency, prosecute. Expose it. So friends, I'll keep talking and talking and talking because this Osun State issue has gotten into me. I was trying to be collective in my reasoning in presenting this video. All right. So the presidency, this is for you. Don't weaponize corruption. Okay? Don't weaponize corruption investigation against any political opponent while demanding that Nigerians trust you to conduct free and fair elections. Already you've lost the trust of the people. All what Nigerians are asking is allow free and fair election for them to make their choices. This is a civic duty. When you deny them their civic duty, that is not democracy. That is not the rule of law. That is not equal justice. And Nigerians must never allow political power to do what? To become so much prevalent, so concentrated that one man, one person can intervene and determine the fate of a state. Okay? And determine the fate of an entire state. To determine the fate of the entire nation. My camera has started acting again. Okay? You can't be a one-man soldier for all Nigerians. You cannot determine the fate of an entire state government finances and potentially influence the outcome of the election. It is not possible. It is not possible. It is not visible. And Nigerians must not allow that. Nigerians must not allow that. Okay? Nigerians belongs to its citizens, not to the president, not to the EFCC, and not to the APC, not to any other political party. All right? The institutions of Nigeria must serve the people and the constitution. No selective justice, no political intimidations, free movement, free choices in electoral duties. That is what Nigerians are asking. That is what Nigerians are asking. Okay? No sacred cows, no weaponization of government institutions, no manipulations of elections. All right? So, friends, the law be the law, whether it touches Osun, Abuja, APC, or Accord. So, let Nigerians decide who governs them. You cannot force yourself on the citizens of Nigeria. The Nigerians deserve the right to perform their civic duties. Let the law be the law. Thank you guys for watching. I believe this rebuttal or my response to the intervention by the presidency served the purpose. So please, if you like the content, give me a thumbs up and share it to your friends. All right, I'm going to see you guys again. Thank you guys. And keep watching. And I'm going to say this time, bye-bye.